Please welcome to the stage, Kayla Towner.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming today. And first thing I want to say, I know how much we love being in the front, but this presentation is somewhat interactive. I did put some online spaces for you to collaborate, but if you do want to come closer, feel free. I promise, I don't bite. So if you're here today, we are focusing on navigating the information jungle. So these are just strategies for teaching informational literacy and media fluency, because it can be kind of hard and confusing with that. So I wanted to find a way that can help support K through 12, and you could adapt it in your own way too. On the front page, there is a QR code so you can have access to the slide deck. So when you're done, you can look back at it, you can utilize it, you can remix it. Oh, it worked, okay. My name is Kayla Towner. I work for Utah Education Network. I'm a product manager of Utah's online school library. So if you've ever seen anything on that, that's where I kind of come from, but I'm also a technology trainer. I can help support you in other tools like podcasting, some robotics, AR, VR, some AI in there. And then you also can contact me at the easiest email, which is kayla@uen.org, or that phone number, which actually works. You can contact me, but if you feel more comfortable connecting with me on social media through Twitter or Instagram, you can just go to Mrs. Towner 9 if you'd like to. Also at the very bottom, you'll see something that says tinyurl/info jungle. That will give you access to these slides. So there are on a few of them. Next bit, I just want to highlight the UEN professional development. We are able to come to your schools for free and help train on other things that we have at UEN if you would like us to come to that. We also have free online courses, which are slowly turning into MOOC style, meaning you have a full year to take those courses instead of doing some 6-week courses. We also provide our UEN Ed Tech endorsement for you all, and we also have quick UEN teacher tips. So it's like a short little article along with a short video that you can use for relationship points, along with our UEN PDTV. There's some excellent things you can see that's happening all throughout Utah, and then our UEN Homeroom podcast to check out. All right, so today what we're gonna be focusing on and helping you to see if this is something you can include in your classroom are understanding informational literacy, media fluency, being able to define and explain concepts of credibility and bias in information resources, and then evaluating credibility using this method of SIFT, which is stop, investigate the source, find trusted coverage, and trace claims to the original source. I don't know if that's something you've used in your classroom before, but I find that it's really helpful because it kind of blends with, if anyone's ever heard of lateral reading, and a real sense of how we see information today. So I do have this join Nearpod. So if you would like to shout out once we get through with this, you can. But if you want to do the joinnearpod.com and type in that code 9FQ4R, you can write in there. So if you don't want to verbally talk into this great hall, you don't have to. But I want you to look at these two images. There's a blue star image and a purple star image. And it's a media message interpretation. I want you to look at it and see what you think the message is. So if you get into that Nearpod, you can type what your thoughts are in the Nearpod, or if you feel comfortable, you can say it in the crowd. I know this is a large room. All right, does anyone want to verbally share? Again, it's okay, I know we're in a huge space. So what did you interpret based upon those images? You could pick one image, you could pick both images. Yes, thank you.
Well, if I'm putting them together, I would say somebody taught that robot how to work so that I can go on vacation.
Okay, love it. You're looking at both of them. Another person in the Nearpod go, robots will take jobs. How many people think robots will take jobs? Anyone? Yeah, there's some people, and it's okay to think that. Someone else is, technology is not relaxing. That definitely can be true. Does anyone else want to share verbally or on Nearpod?
I don't know for sure, but it seems to be like on the picture on the left.
Yeah.
Individual is like looking at
Yeah. I love it. Yes. And then some people, even in the near pub, are saying like, beach is the goal. Yes, I totally agree. Beach is the goal. I'd rather be human. And then another person said, let's go to the beach. I love it. So these are some things based upon us, how we might refer to these different media images. So going to this next one, it talks about how each of you, we have our own experiences, right? Our own opinions. And that's the same thing for your students. Everyone's grew up a little bit differently. Everyone has a different experience. Therefore, the creator of this had an intended message, but it's not always perceived the same because of our own personal experiences. And we might have our own unique meaning to that same message. Some might say, hey, robots are gonna help us, where others like, no, robots are gonna take over. And that's concerning to some. But based upon our own experiences, we might perceive it differently. Can you think of a real life example of this? Something else have you seen, like while you're driving on a billboard or while you're shopping or something in your classroom even? Yeah?
In this work, every person has a different reaction to vaccines.
Yeah.
We're coming from different homes where people have different perceptions of that. Some people see it as something good and some people see it as something bad.
Right. Some people think vaccines are like, yes, everyone needs to do it. That's our job. And other people are like, no. I have a different experience with that. And so yes, that's definitely media interpretation. Like because of our own personal experiences, we might perceive things differently. So another example was this one. Does anyone know who this person is? Or what this is referring to? Yes, very good, Rosie the Riveter. And this was during a time, and if you have access to the slide deck, if you click on it, it will bring you to what this was all about. It was saying during World War II, like we can be part of this war. Women are strong, they can be part of this. It's not just the men. So that was the message interpretation back then. And so it's just saying, okay, as we move forward, we're not just doing major posters. I mean, it's social media coming in and showcasing to our students, to us. It's being thrown at us left and right. Oop, and I gotta go back, went too quick. Okay, so media is this method of how something is communicated. So you and our students, we are getting it through books, we're getting it through music, we're getting it through podcasts, TV, reels, thinking of TikTok, Instagram, paintings, video games. Our kids are getting information in so many different ways. Even, what was I thinking? What's the one where the kids play online, they talk to each other? I can't think of that. It's not Call of Duty. I feel like old. Something else, but maybe Minecraft, but something like that where they're getting information differently in those platforms. So that is something for us to think about. Are your students going online and looking up information all the time? How are they getting their information? How much are they spending on it? And from this survey, it's saying kids between 13 and 19 are spending a minimum of 4.8 hours. And you that might have some students be like, whoa, they're spending more time on it than just even what that's saying. So that's kind of a signal to us being like, okay, that's maybe how they're getting their information. So maybe that's something I need to think about, how to get them to make sure and see if that information is credible, is reliable. So I want you to ask yourself, how and where do you typically get your news? Do you go somewhere? Do you wait for it to pop up? Just think about that for a second. And then also I want you to think, where do you think your students are getting their news? So these are some definitions that I wanted you guys to see. So for informational literacy from the Association of College and Research and Libraries, they're saying being able to find, understand, and use information in an ethical way to learn and create new knowledge. That is a goal we want our students to have, even for ourselves. And along with that, with media fluency, we want to be able to access, analyze, evaluate, create, and act using all forms of communication. That's what I'm saying. Not all kids are getting the information the same. They're not all going on websites being like, I'm going to look this up on a website. No. Oftentimes, they're scrolling through things. They're finding a gift, being like, oh, this gift's amazing. I'm going to send it to that friend. Or I'm going to send it to this person. My sister just sent me a gift the other day because she's like, oh, that reminded me of you. So we're getting information in different ways. So we have to ask ourselves, how do we find credible resources online? Nowadays with AI, it can be even harder to know what is real and what is not. We get misinformation, we get malinformation, we get disinformation. So we have to kind of help our students navigate through this. So they say here, what is a credible resource? So they're saying a credible resource is information that can be trusted as reliable and accurate. Therefore, oftentimes it's with an author that's typically an expert in a field or an organization that's typically trustworthy that you can say that's credible. But like anything, we're all human. There might be some form of bias. And so, do you have a bias? So let's see. I want you to look at these two pizzas. There's the blue star pizza and the purple star pizza. What do you notice about these images? Think to yourself. And if you want to add to the Nearpod, you can, or you can verbally, but just take a moment. What do you know about these pizzas? Which one do you feel more drawn to? And again, you can go back to that Nearpod, which is located down below, or you can verbally speak up. Okay, I love this. Somebody just wrote, the one that is cut in visible slices seems more accessible. That's that perception there. I love that. Anyone else? Someone else said it's easier to see that one of the slices of pizza are more uneven. That can be bothersome. I would probably fall in line of like, I don't like that pizza. They're not even, people. Another one says the blue star looks more evenly cut. Yes, we do see that. The one on the right looks bigger, so it might be a bigger pizza versus a smaller pizza. Does anyone feel more drawn to a specific one? Blue star versus purple star. Yes? Okay, that would be my husband. He hates olives. He would go for the other one just because of that. Anyone else? Is everyone doesn't like the toppings on the uncut pizza, but because it's uncut, you're like, no, can't do that one.
The one on the right just looks like it's been sitting out on a table for longer than the one on the left.
Yeah, there you go. And then some people are talking about that, like they like the purple star or the blue star pizza toppings better. One is drawn because it looks like the sauce on the pizza is more red or not. So we all have a preference, right? And I'm sure your students would too. My kids would be like, neither, there's vegetables. So there you go with that one. Okay, let's look at another one. What do you notice about these images? And again, you can add into the Nearpod, or you can verbally say. Let's take a moment. Do you feel more drawn to the person near the blue star, or do you feel more drawn to the person with the purple star? That's what someone else said. The same guy? Maybe. Does anyone else have something? I see the same guy. Anyone verbally want to say? The purple star looks more professional. Yeah, that definitely could be true. Someone says it's the same guy but dressed differently. Yeah, totally. So if you click on either image, it will bring you to some articles. And yes, it is the same guy. He once was a veteran that got addicted to drugs, but then was able to come out of it. He says he has this golden voice, that's what he's known for, and then became like a podcast or a radio host and was able to get out of that. But we all have different ways of like looking at things, how we might be drawn to things. And someone says, with the purple star, that he looks like he is ready to help, and the blue star looks like they want something. So we'll notice different things based upon where we have grown up in our lives, how we have maybe dealt with these people, which is the same guy, but we all may have a preference towards it. So this comes into bias. What is it? So it's having a preference for one thing or over another in somewhat of an unfair way. So I like these examples because we all sometimes do this, saying libraries are smart and shy. Have you ever heard of that? Or wealthy people are just snobs. We make those generalizations. So those are considered fallacious arguments or hasty generalizations we want to stop doing. And we want to teach our kids, like, we don't want to necessarily do that. It's good to be aware of bias, but not to make those generalizations. And just being aware of it. It's okay. We all are human, like I said before, and we're going to have some form of bias, but just being aware of what that is from our prior experience and our knowledge. So we're going to get into this SIFT acronym. So the S is stop. The I stands for investigate the source. The F stands for find better coverage, and then the T stands for trace claims, quotes, media back to the original context. This was created by Mike Caulfield, who created this SIFT protocol, and he's focusing on doing these narrow things versus too broad of things to help our students better identify what type of material is credible and reliable. And they're all linked in here, so if you want to click on them, you can see more information about it, but just wanted you to see that down below. And first off with the stop. So when we see something, which I'm sure most of us have on Twitter or Instagram or even like Yahoo News or Google News, we'll see something and be like, what is that? So when you encounter something like that, it's going to get a big reaction. Stop, pause. Ask yourself, is that a trusted resource? Same thing with our students. And then I want you to think, like assess. Don't share this until you know for sure, because that's what we want to do. So if I'm feeling overwhelmed or having that big emotion, I'm going to stop again and remind myself and adjust my goal and strategy to ensure that what I'm looking at before I share with someone else, if I know if this is credible or not. So it's telling our students to do the same thing, and also as adults, we need to do that same thing. Stop and think for a second. So for example, this is from Instagram, and I saw this moldy Whopper ad. Have any of you guys seen this before? So Burger King, it says down here, broke the norms of food advertising with a daring moldy Whopper campaign. This initiative aimed to emphasize the commitment of using no artificial preservatives. I was like, no, they wouldn't do that. So I had to stop, and I think to myself, I'm like, okay, who is this coming from? It's coming from a source that's called quotes. That can't be true. Like, who is this person? So then I step through, I investigate the source. We don't have 5 hours to investigate, which my husband would say, yes, you do. And I'm like, no, we do not. So with our students, a quick way is adding Wikipedia. I know we've been told, don't go to Wikipedia, but it can be a great source for crowdsourcing and seeing if something is repeating a similar claim. So if you type in, like, for example, NPR.org Wikipedia, it can bring it up. Or even like checking out social media platforms to check and see if something's credible, that's another way of going about doing it too. So for example here, I looked it up, I typed in moldy Whopper Wikipedia, and down below it showcased the Whopper, and it brought in this information about this was a campaign for the moldy Whopper during the 2019 Super Bowl. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna look more into that. So now I need to find trusted coverage. And this was, at first I was like, I don't really know, what do you mean by that? So it's asking us if this seemed like low quality, so it came from Instagram, quotes, like, who is that? I wanted to ensure, what is the claim? What are they trying to say? Again, the whole idea was about food preservatives, that Burger King is using real food, whereas I don't know if you guys have seen the McDonald's version, where it's been sitting there for years and there's no mold on it. So I was like, okay, that's the claim. So I need to find better coverage for that. So by doing that, I found some coverage from CNN, from marketing media, and from this food website. They were all saying the similar claim for that. So I was like, okay, that helps to let me know, like, maybe this quotes person, whoever they are, this company is saying real information, because I'm finding other trusted coverage. Yes, there still might be somewhat of a bias here, but it's saying the same claim. And the next bit is tracing the claims, the quotes, or media back to the original context. So it's figuring out, where did this originally come from? Who wrote this? So here's like a short version explanation of finding, you're recognizing, is this complete information? Is it incomplete? Because oftentimes we take things at face value. We don't dig deeper, saying like, was that cut too short? Are there missing details? I need to find that original context. And we also can use fact-checking websites, such as the ones below, and they're all linked out too, if needed. So I did that. I was like, okay, I need to find a place where I can do that. And oftentimes it can be really difficult to know where to go. So if you look at this on the board up here, if you click on it, it brings you to a college website where they're saying, you know, humans create information. When it comes to data, someone is deciding what to collect and how to collect it. So just being aware that no matter where you go, there might be a little bit of bias there, but understanding that their goal is to fact check and have accountability. So at the bottom it says view trustworthy news sites, there's some there. And in the corner, if you're elementary, I found some news website for kids that's pretty safe for them. But just being aware of that. So here I typed in the Moldy Whopper site for Snoops, nothing came up, so that was helpful to know, like, maybe this claim is true. And then I found the original context from the actual Burger King website. And number 50, so this is like 65 fun facts about the Whopper. It says, to promote the fact that Whopper is made with no artificial preservatives, Burger King US showed a time lapse of this moldy Whopper through that time lapse. I was like, okay, I feel like I've done my job, I have looked through this, and I found it in a way that my students may find information, and seeing, is this credible or not? This is the long version, so if you want to ask additional questions, this is another way of asking questions based upon if you're tracing back for video, image, or even a medical claim. So I just wanted to provide that in there for you to refer back to. So I'm just going to skip that one and move forward. So now I do want you to have the opportunity to do this yourselves. And I know we're kind of far apart. If you want to work with someone near you or independently, I found examples for you to use in your classroom or by yourself, but to give real examples of how students might perceive information. So a question to ask yourself first off, whatever you're looking at, is this credible? Okay? The next question is the claim legitimate? The claim might be legitimate, but the actual resource you're looking at is not credible. And is there a bias? Even if there is a bias, is the information still somewhat credible? So if you click on one of these are examples. So there's one called the tree octopus in there, Dog Island and Nature Conservancy, and then pig rescues baby goat from YouTube. We also have killer whales hunting great white sharks, and more. So during this time, this is a moment for you to check these out. I was going to give you the time to work on this during this session. I know we're in this big, great hall, but if you would like to do that now, and then practice this. You stop, you investigate the source, you find better coverage, you trace the claims and quotes and media back to the original context to practice this in your own way. But it's also just getting that practice of how your students are going to get that media. So typically, I give you guys around 10 minutes to do this, which I'm going to give you guys that. So I want you to choose one of those. If you want to work with someone near you, if you want to work independently, but I want to give you that option. And if you have questions, I don't know, can I leave the stage? If you have questions, I can walk towards you if needed. I don't know. Cameraman, can I leave the stage? No, maybe? I can go around. Okay, I can leave. So I want to give you that time. We'll do like 10 minutes for you guys to choose one of these options and look at it, or more than one of them, and explore it using the SIFT method. So click on one of the links if you can. Hopefully you're in the slide deck. Do you guys need to go back to the slide deck one to view? Does anyone need that still? I can go back. Hold on. Not the Nearpod. Here we go. Oh, nope, Nearpod again. Here we go. So if you need access to the slide deck, it's just tinyurl.com/info-jungle. So again, tinyurl.com/info-jungle. And then I'm just going to keep scrolling back forward. Okay, so here you are. I'll give you guys 10 minutes to explore, because I want you to try this out yourself, to see for yourself if something is credible. Again, you're looking at if the actual source is credible, is the overall claim legitimate, but what you're looking at is not credible, and is there bias? And is that okay? And that's something for us to help our students kind of see in real life scenarios. Typically, I would play background music, but I don't know if we could. Okay, sure. Okay, we're gonna play a little background music so it's not awkward and quiet in here. So 10 minutes, and if you need me, raise your hand and I'll come out into the audience. some people have looked at some. So if you do want to add it to the Nearpod, you totally can, and you can look at more than one. So we have about 5-ish minutes. So if you want to look at another one to see and go through the same process with the SIFT method, feel free, and you can always add it to the Nearpod, or you can verbally share out in the next 5 minutes. So let me know if you still need support. Okay, so hopefully you have enough time to go through that. And again, I'm sorry, I know we're like in this super large space, but you know what? It's gonna work. We're gonna make it work. So some people have added on to the Nearpod. So if you wanna take the time and add what you noticed or what you found, like was whatever you're looking at, was it credible? Was the claim legitimate? Was there bias? So take a moment, think about what you looked at. You can add it to the Nearpod, or if you want to actually verbally express it, feel free. Somebody here wrote, the what about the animal rights activist looks credible. It was reported on the BBC without apparent bias. Great. Someone just generally said that some of the examples seem credible and some not. Someone said, there's an Instagram post about Trump signing an executive order to remove pronouns by a certain time. The post doesn't say what day and adds bias in imagery. ABC News and other trustworthy web news sources also report on the executive order. But again, when we see things on Instagram or TikTok, and you don't know if it's a trusted resource, you gotta dig a little bit further. Does anyone else want to add? I'm just reading the ones on Nearpod. Yeah. So the best way for, especially with young people, I either have them go to like Snoops or like Polyfact to check to see if those are reliable resources. A lot of times they may be reliable, but there might be a lot of bias. So if we go back to this one, I try to refer to these places to saying, hey, these are some trustworthy news sites that do their best for accountability and in making sure that they're not changing up what is being said or taking pieces of it. So that's kind of what I do, because I had fifth graders, so I try to help them with that process. As they get older, they can dive a little bit further and refer back and see, because it's always kind of nice. I used to do it where I'd look at the author, and then I would actually see if they had a social media account to refer back to that to see if they're legitimate, and then seeing even on LinkedIn if I could find them in those areas to see if it's legitimate or not. But this might be a faster way, depending how old your students are. Does anyone else want to share what they found? Is there anything that tricks you? You're like, yes, that's real, but it's not. Yeah.
I clicked on the first one of the tree octopus, and my first thought was like, oh, the website looks reliable. It looks like it's a real thing, but I'm like, there's no way there's an octopus in a pine tree.
Right.
And then, you know, like, I only just went to Google, and it brought up the thing that said, oh, this was a spoof back in the 90s. And it was like, oh, okay, but like the website itself looks like, I can tell you all of my kids would have been like, yeah, it's legit. Look, there's a website.
Yep, definitely. And a lot of times someone asks in the crowd, like, how could I do this littles? I would pick one of these resources and walk through it with the littles. And you ask kind of open-ended questions. So with the tree octopus, they've updated it. So when I first went through it with my fifth graders, they had less reliable image. But now because of AI, anything can be real. So we had to kind of go through it with each other. I said, you know, what do you first notice? I wasn't trying to sway them either way. And then I'd ask the question, what makes this seem legitimate? And we make a list on what they would perceive as legitimate. And then what would seem like, what would be untrustworthy? And we create a list on that. And from there, I let the students figure out, okay, what is a system that we can check? I mean, I still would kind of push the SIFT method towards them, but to let them be more aware when they're researching online or finding things online, because even at fifth graders, some of these kids were getting Instagram. Some of these kids were like having their parents like allow them to watch all these YouTube videos. To have them have these types of skills when they're looking at things at a young age is so big. Because as they get older, they're gonna get more access. Like in the survey, a minimum average, students are on social media 4.8 hours a day. How many hours are they in school? So that's kind of a key aspect there. Anyone else? Okay, so I hope these examples were helpful. These examples will always be alive for the most part. Especially the ones that I was able to screenshot and put into Google Drive. You can use them. I won't like cut them out or ever. But they are a great way to kind of see for your students to be like, hey, If you're getting information from Instagram, if you're getting a GIF, where did that come from? How can I relate to that? Or how can I check to make sure it's credible and legitimate? I do also have another example. Now this is focusing in on one single claim. So the idea is the claim is real, but are the resources real? So this is another example you can use, but it's mostly using website articles, focusing on this idea of lowering the voting age, and the students then would have to decide which articles would be legitimate and which would not be. But the overall claim is generally real. So this is another example you could do, especially with middle school, high school students. This might be a great option, but I definitely wanted to provide other forms of media. That's why we did the first one with your students, because they get media in all different ways. All right, so I want you to think right now, what could you start doing tomorrow in your classroom? And you could add to the Nearpod, but I want you to take a moment and think. What's something you could do tomorrow, just based upon this, something even little? Does anyone want to verbally share before I read some of the ones on Nearpod? Yes?
I really want to go through the definitions that you gave of what
Informational literacy, media fluency.
and talk to my students about like why do you need to know that? What is it? Why is it important? Why would I learn about that to teach you?
Oh, I love that. Having them understand these definitions, yes. Anything else?
I'm going to pull up some of those articles that you had us go through.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think?
I love it.
I think it's fun.
Yeah, it's like being a detective, right? Like, okay, I love it. Some people on here said just getting them excited about investigating information like they do in math. That's excellent. Start having conversations with students about where they get their information, which I think is so key. Where are you looking? Coming to their level and understanding, okay, that's where you're getting your information. Okay, these are some things we still can do. I love it. Anyone else? Yeah.
I'm excited about just talking with my students about go to the source directly.
Yes.
See something, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not true, but you need to verify it and true or false by checking more than one
Right.
source.
Yes. Going to the original source can be so helpful to know for sure if something is reliable and credible. I love that. All right. Anyone else? Okay. I'm going to move on. So I have some additional resources for you in this slide deck that can be helpful. And I don't know if the people in the back could click on that image of paper to pull up a sway for me. If they could, no big deal if you can't, I totally understand. But if you click on that image, what it will provide you is like a whole list of support tools for digital citizenship and informational literacy. So I kind of provide you of where you can research, what curriculums there are out there, even from UEN, from Common Sense Media, from Google Be Awesome, even Microsoft's Search Progress has some support there. I also am providing like actual curriculums they have in this sway, and then even just places to research. Utah's Online School Library, Google Scholar, Microsoft Search Progress has something where it can search and provide more credible and reliable information for your students. So again, if you click on that image, you have a great resource there for you. And then I do provide some additional information on lateral reading. A lot of sifting through things, you are lateral reading. So if you want more information on this, you can definitely check it out. There's a little definition on it. I have a little short video on it that you could check out, along with just understanding vertical reading versus lateral reading. Because what we do often, and sometimes it can take forever, but we find ourselves reading top to bottom, and then we're there for hours. It's this idea that we're kind of going through things kind of quickly in some sense, so we get a better understanding if it's real or not. And then when we realize, okay, this is real, this claim is real, that's when we can dig deep into that content. So this is just an example of what you could do with groups, depending on their age group, assignment of how they could do this in your classroom. It's not foolproof, but just something as a way to help support you if this is something you want to try with your students. And then follow and subscribe. We have a bunch of different ways you can follow us at UEN if you want to, or if you like to, if you want to ask me additional questions, feel free to email me at kayla@uen.org, super easy. Or if you prefer, like I said, to communicate through social media, my Twitter and Instagram accounts are Mrs. Towner9. I thank you guys all so much for coming to this session, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your USET. So thank you all.